This is the 2022 Toyota Yaris Cross, and aside from sharing a platform, which is a pretty big thing to share actually, and a few external design cues, it really has very little in common with the regular Yaris. This car sits just below the CHR in Toyota's SUV lineup, but it is a little more practical and a little more rugged, more designed for a bit of light off-roading rather than a purely urban environment. From a design point of view, there's not a lot of cohesion between the front and the back of this car. It sort of looks like they've taken two different cars and spliced them together. The front, I think, is its probably least best angle. I mean, the high-mounted headlights just look a little bit strange and the grille is just a bit too small. But I do like the daytime running lights down the bottom there, which double as indicators. Side-on, and the Yaris Cross does look a little bit like a sort of shrunk down RAV4, and the grey plastic around the wheel arches actually makes them look bigger than they are. The standard wheel on this car is 16 inches, but this top spec urban model gets 18s. It's from behind where the Yaris Cross looks its best. I like the light clusters with the thin strip LED lights. The powered tailgate hides a 314 litre storage space, and that's actually smaller than the standard model because the battery in this hybrid model has to go somewhere. There's also no spare tyre, you just get a tyre repair kit. The hybrid powertrain in this car is made up of a 1.5 litre 3-cylinder naturally aspirated engine mated to an electric motor, and together they output 85 kilowatts of power and 120 newton meters of torque. Those numbers aren't really huge, but this is a pretty light subcompact SUV, so it's more than enough. Fuel economy averages at 4 litres per 100 kilometres on a combined cycle. In the 24 hours or so that I've had this car, I've been getting about 5.2, which is still pretty good. And the power is delivered to all four wheels via a continuously variable transmission. The interior of the Yaris Cross is an interesting mix of designs, but it feels durable. There's a certain durability to it. There's even some hard brown plastic here, which is a bit of an interesting choice. Starting with the center console screen, it's 7 inches, which is actually not very big by contemporary standards, and unfortunately we're stuck with Toyota's very average infotainment system, which is just frankly a bit of a letdown for a car maker of Toyota's standing. They could do better. But it does everything you need it to do. The good part is that there is now Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, although they are wired, and you can use those as much as you like. Unfortunately though, there is no escaping the slightly tinny sounding 6-speaker sound system in this car. Moving down the console, we've got a shelf here for your phone. Unfortunately, no wireless charging. Climate control's pretty straightforward. Underneath that, we've got 2 USB outputs, which is actually one more than you get in a Camry or a Corolla. And the heated seat controls, plus also hill descent control. Another little tray down there which you can put your wallet in. A pretty plain looking gear shifter here, which also has B mode, which is a regenerative braking mode, allowing you to send power back to the battery when the car is braking. And then we've got drive mode controls down here in the lower console, including some terrain controls of snow and trail. Basically, this being an all-wheel drive car, that dictates the amount of torque going to each of the 4 wheels. The drive modes, we get normal, power and eco, and there is also full EV mode, allowing you to drive this car as an electric car, but not for a very long period because the battery is not really designed to do that. 2 pretty good sized cup holders, and then we've got a little tiny storage area here, which I wish there was an armrest on. I'm really missing not having an armrest in this car, so elbows just sort of hanging there. Head-up display on the windshield, which you can only adjust through a control on the instrument cluster. It took me ages to figure that out, and for the first day or so I had this car, it was all at the wrong level. It was driving me insane, but figured it out eventually. The instrument cluster itself I really like. It's just a bit different, but they've done a really good job with it. So we've got these 2 segment LED dials, one showing you what gear you're in and the other showing you your speed, plus you can see the amount of power being used by the hybrid powertrain in this car, so you can see whether it's in charge mode, eco or power. Plus you've got all your regular fuel and engine temperature gauges here. And just the way they've done it with these old school segment LEDs, I really like it. It's an innovative way of doing it. The center screen can be adjusted to show you various bits of car and trip information. The steering wheel is a little bit on the thin side, but it does have all of the standard adaptive cruise control and audio system controls you'd expect, and it feels pretty good. The seats are pretty comfortable. They're not the most supportive seats I've ever sat in, however, and the material used on the cushion does feel just a little bit too soft. It's not very supportive. They are leather accented, and the driver gets power adjustment, manual adjustment only for the front passenger, and both front seats are heated. So what's it like to drive? Well, it feels pretty much like every other subcompact SUV you care to come across, which means that it's capable, but it does feel a bit light and a little bit bouncy. The biggest thing I've noticed though is the noise, and this is a hybrid powertrain with a 3-cylinder petrol motor attached to it that sounds a bit like a diesel. I mean, it's really pretty loud. The steering feels pretty good, not too heavy, not too light, like pretty much all Toyotas, and it's nice and direct. Seating position in the cabin is pretty good too, so I've got a great view out the front, can see right to the front corners of the bonnet. Plenty of headroom here. I feel like I'm nice and low in the cabin, which is nice because a lot of SUVs you kind of can feel like you're riding on top of a car as opposed to in it, but Toyota have done a good job with this car. It actually feels really comfortable. This car's all-wheel drive capability means that it not only feels supremely confident on the road on a wet day like today, there's plenty of traction, but you can also realistically take it off-road for some light to medium off-roading, and with its drive mode controls of snow and trail, you could probably get out of most binds that you could get yourself into off-road, short of driving up the side of a mountain. I would not recommend that. Going around town with potholes and speed humps, the Yaris Cross is actually handling things really, really well. It's not coming unstuck or really giving any body roll. It's actually staying really flat, which is pretty good for a subcompact SUV. So if you're looking for a subcompact SUV to get your small family around and maybe thinking about going off-road once in a while, then the Toyota Yaris Cross is a pretty good option, but keep in mind there is a $13,000 gap between the entry-level model and this one. And at the entry level, you might be missing out on a few nice bits of kit, but it won't break the bank.